The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Nordic Fantasy. Sign the promo code SGPN to score up to $1,000 of bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7 free trial today by going to sportsgambling.com Rhythm, sportsgambling.com, RITHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday morning, roughly 4 a.m. Eastern Time on August 22nd. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun episode because it is time to get into the quarterfinals in Winston-Salem. So we're going to preview all 4 matches in a second. Before we get into any of that, though, I do want to recap what happened in the last couple episodes because we didn't have a chance to recap the lock and dog picks from the I'm trying to remember the exact order. We did the Winston-Salem preview and outrights first, then we ended up doing the Cincinnati final. So we didn't have a chance to actually see how those matches played out. So we're going to recap both those. First, before we get into that, though, I want to remind once again to like, subscribe on YouTube. Also, a reminder, if you're still listening to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, you can still leave a rating or review, so you can show support if you're listening to the podcast audio only. If you're on YouTube, once again, you can listen to the live stream. You'll listen to the YouTube video afterwards, or once again, just do it audio only. Either way, though, point is you can show some feedback on other, a platform, so don't forget to do so, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, a reminder, check out the SGPN merch store. A lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. We have sweatshirts, shirts, and mugs, all high quality, very affordable. Recommend you getting yourself something. And a reminder, once again, that we have other shows with the network as well, and everything on the merch store is 10% off with the promo code football. So if you do want to get yourself a Tennis Gambling Podcast shirt, or if you want to get yourself an NBA shirt, for example, even WNBA, if you want to get yourself a shirt there, I recommend going to the merch store because we do have a great deal, 10% off everything with the code football. Plus, a reminder, college football kicks off this weekend, so tune into the Sports Game Podcast and the college football experience for week 0 picks and all your favorite futures. Time to get into the actual recap, though, of the last 2 episodes. We're going to start off in Cincinnati. Then we're going to talk about the actual lock and dog picks for the first round in Winston-Salem. Starting off with the lock and dog picks for the final in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, did go 0-2 on those. For the lock, we had the under half a tiebreak at -141. I think it closed -150. Pretty unfortunate for us. Tiafoe had 3 break points, didn't convert in the first set, and then Sinner had a 75-mile-per-hour second serve in the middle of the box on a set point with break point in the 5-6 game, and he missed the return long. So he had an absolute sitter waiting for him, and just a get-me-over second serve by Tiafoe, and Sinner ended up missing the return, and then you saw Tiafoe hold as they ended up going to a breaker, and then Sinner killed him in the second set. So pretty unfortunate there. Had some chances for breaks, didn't get it. So either way, first set was a break-free tie break, so picked up a loss there. For the dog, wasn't that close. I had the Sinner and Tiafoe over 2.5 sets at +155. Tiafoe had some serious chances in the first set, said before he went 0 for 3 in break points, couldn't convert, and then he got destroyed in the second set, so not really that close to the dog. But the breaker was competitive, so Tiafoe maybe could have found a way over the finish line, or if he just got a break with any of those break points, then he could have potentially gotten it done. Didn't get there, though, went 0-2 there. However, we bounced back for the first round of Winston-Salem, as we ended up sweeping the first round. We had Chang to win in straight sets against Navone, and he did. He won in straight sets there at -120. And for the dogweight, Stricker to win in straight sets against Coria at +110. That got there as he ended up winning in straight sets. So overall, decent episodes when you combine the two together. We ended up splitting the 4 picks. So hopefully we ended up sweeping the picks here for the Thursday matches. But I do want to segue back into Cincinnati because I got to recap Sinner's actual win in Cincinnati for a 1,000 title. Now, the actual headline of him winning the event was, I'd say, short-lived because you had some drama that showed up about a day after. So getting into quickly the match, Sinner looked good. You could argue that Tiafoe had chances. Yes, he did, but eventually Sinner wore him down. And Tiafoe, once he lost the first set breaker, I think we all knew he was screwed. And him immediately getting broken in the first service game was really classic Tiafoe. And Sinner destroyed him in the second set. So nothing really shocking there. Good win for Sinner. But the drama came afterwards, which was the steroid allegations, which I got to talk about briefly, and my overall thoughts. So just to quickly go through what happened, Sinner allegedly failed 2 anti-doping tests during the Indian Wells tournament, and they ended up testing him for it. And it turns out he was testing positive for something called clostebol, which is a banned substance. However, they ended up reviewing it. The official independent panel, the ITIA, the International Tennis Integrity Agency, ended up reviewing 2 tests, and they realized that it was, let's just say, rather fluky and unintentional that Sinner ended up testing positive because he tested positive due to his trainer, who ended up having a cut in his finger. He applied some type of spray to it, and it turns out the substance that he applied to his own finger was on the banned substance list, and then he ended up giving Sinner a massage or something, and then it kind of seeped into Sinner's skin, and he tested positive. So I know it's going to sound extremely sketchy, but according to the actual panel, according to reports, there was such a minimal amount of the actual substance in Sinner's test that it wasn't even enhancing his performance. So basically, he tested for less than 1/1000th of a gram, and it came back showing that the amount was so small that it had no impact at all on Sinner's performance. So it's really, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it. It's a very, very petty type of, I'd say, crime, if that's what you want to use the term. Crime's maybe not the right word. I'd say type of, a positive test. It was a very, very, I'd say, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe this, but it seems extremely just, it just seems like a non-story to me. Now, a lot of people jumped on it and immediately saw Twitter really just jump on the thing, talking about a Sinner as a cheater and how he's actually, worthy of being suspended and how he's getting unfair treatment. I'll touch upon it in a couple ways. Do I think Sinner should have been suspended? No, I don't think he should have. Am I happy he didn't get suspended? Of course I'm happy. Yeah, I'm really rooting for a top 3 guy in the world to get suspended when he's one of the most entertaining players in the world. I don't understand really the argument of why tennis fans are really like begging for Sinner to get suspended. Do you not enjoy watching him play tennis? Like, I don't understand the argument here. The argument is, well, people in the past, like Brooksby, for example, or Emer, who missed tests, got suspended for over a year. You had Halep in years past. Sharapova had an incident. I understand it. The argument is you have a lack of overall transparency and a lack of consistency when it comes down to the steroid suspensions from the tennis organizations in the past to now. That part I can agree with. However, I've been yelling at the tennis agencies for a while, talking about how the steroid or the, I'd say, doping punishments for the overall sport have been too strict for too long. And now they gave a guy a bit of leniency, in my opinion, rightfully so. And people are rioting, talking about how Sinner should be suspended. The guy's a top 3 player in the world. Like, do you not enjoy watching him play tennis? Why would I want to not see him play for a year and change? I'm thrilled he did not get suspended. Now, once again, it is worth mentioning it was such a small percentage that it did not impact his performance at all, according to the actual panel's research. So if he ended up having a banned substance within his system, but it didn't help his performance, then why does it really matter? Like, I feel like people were trying to create an absolute just media storm about it, and I really didn't care. That's kind of where I stood. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now, the argument once again is based on transparency, and if the other players should have been suspended in the past, I don't have the details there. I know Brooksby just straight up avoided a drug test. Same with Emer. They pulled the Yair Rodriguez move in UFC. So point is, it's a little bit different for those circumstances. Am I happy Sinner did not get suspended? Yes. If you're really upset about it, to be honest, I think you need to find something better to do. It's really not that big of a deal. Just move on. And that's kind of where I stand on it. So maybe a hot take, not really going to dive into the drama because I really don't care. Like, I'm happy Sinner's playing. And I understand that people can make the argument that he ended up failing the exam because he had this random less than 1/1000th of a percent. Whatever. It's less than 1 billion. I personally don't care. If you want to hold him accountable, sure. I'll enjoy watching Sinner play every time he plays. That's all I got to say about it. Moving on to the other stuff for the event. A recap in the matches, though, for Wednesday. Starting off with the matches, you had a lot of crazy matches. So Goffin was the very straightforward match to start the day, as he ended up beating Rinderknech in straight sets 6-3, 6-3. Kotov beat Svaja, lost the first set, then came back and won in 3. Was surprised he was actually a dog in that one. Thought Kotov should be favored. Then Sonego ended up not playing because Shang ended up withdrawing from the event after he ended up beating Navone. So he did us a solid. He beat Navone and then he immediately quit. So I guess Shang was not feeling that great, or he decided to just stay healthy for the U.S. Open. So he decided to not risk it. So he ended up dropping out. Kind of a surprise. I thought he looked very good against Navone. But Sonego got a bye. You had Hichikata, who ended up beating Coric, which was a massive choke job by Coric. So Coric led. It was either 5-3, or I think it was 5-3. He led 5-3 with one break in the third set, and he blew it. He lost the last 4 games. Now, he also had 2 match points. He blew those 2. I believe he double faulted the second match point, and Hichikata came back. I thought Coric had the match won, and he just completely gagged it up. That was kind of my thoughts on that one. Hichikata did a good job of keeping the ball in play. George, we know, can self-destruct because of shot selection and his unforced errors can be a serious issue with this game, and that's exactly what happened. Not to mention the fact Chorich is underratedly a horrible volleyer, like an atrocious volleyer for a guy ranked in like the top 50, and just a brutal volleyer, and that really came back to bite him, especially on the break point. I know that he's ranked 87 now. He used to be in the top 50. He was even a top 10 guy, like back in the day, I think, or at least he was top 20. Point is, Chorich couldn't hit a volley to save his life the entire match, and that was really what came back to bite him. And it was rough. It was rough to watch, especially since we had Chorich to win the event. And he just completely had the match won up a break because Hichikata butchered an overhead into the 3-4 game. And then Chorich gave it back after 2 match points. So that sucked. Then you saw Tien get the job done against Seaboth Wild. It came out of nowhere. Tien's been incredible. And he has, once again, advanced to the quarter. So good for him. And he has been on a serious heater so far in 2024. So it's definitely good to see him. Looking forward to seeing his match against Carreño Busta in the, I believe, late card for Thursday. But Tien's been great, mostly a challenger ITF guy. He showed up at Winston-Salem, and he's won every match. Went through qualifying, ended up beating Morozin in the first match here, or beat School Cat, ended up beating Morozin, and then he ended up beating Seaboth Wild in straight sets. Kid's good. I can't say I've seen him play that much, but he's got a lot of talent. We'll see how he does against the potentially compromised Carreño Busta in the match on Thursday. Moving on to the next match that's worth talking about. So Tien's match was pretty underwhelming as he won straight sets. Then you had Safulin, who should have pretty much won the match against Eubanks, and he blew it. So Safulin lost the first set. Had a couple break points early, so did Eubanks. They didn't break. Then Eubanks got the break, won the first set 6-3. Then Safulin killed Eubanks in the second set, winning 6-1. Then he immediately had 15-40 in the first game of the third set, did not convert. I believe he had another break point somewhere in there, and then he ended up having a couple match points. Really, the heartbreaker for Safulin was the tiebreaker in the 5-4 point because Eubanks shanked the hell out of a forehand return, and it turned out to be a perfect return. He shanked it, it had a little bit of tail to it, and ended up landing on the baseline, or on the little line on the side. So the point is, it should have been an error, and instead it counted as a winner. And then Eubanks got back into the actual tiebreak, but we saw Safulin have 2 separate match points. The one that was the heartbreaker, I believe, was the 8-7 one, where Eubanks actually missed the first serve, and then Safulin launched the return long. And besides that, the real story of the breaker was Safulin couldn't hit a first serve to save his life, and it felt like Eubanks hit basically every first serve. So Eubanks did a good job serving, especially in some tough situations. In the 15-40 game, for example, to start the third set, he also had a break point in the 3-3 game. And you ended up seeing Eubanks fight that off as well with, I believe, a first serve. Point is, you saw Eubanks serve very well when he needed to, and Safulin didn't, and Safulin eventually ended up losing the third set and the match. So Eubanks got revenge. I believe they faced off about a week ago in a tournament that Safulin actually won, and Eubanks got revenge. But the real story was the first serve percentage. I believe Eubanks hit 79% of his first serves in the third set. 79% in the third set is absolutely crazy. And it just felt like that was the story. Eubanks kept hitting the big serves when he needed to. He came forward. He volleyed well. And I was impressed by how he ended up playing. So, point is, Eubanks kind of took the match from Safulin. He had some chances. Really, the missed opportunity was either the 15-40 in the first game of the third set or the return long that he ended up having with the second serve opportunity in the match point at 8-7. But once again, tough match. Could have gone either way, and Eubanks was on the right side. And then for the other matches, Mickelson destroyed Berg 6-1, 6-2, and Carreño Busta had an absolute war against Vukic. Looked like he was going to win in about an hour as he was up 6-3, 2-0. Then he got injured. Ended up getting a broken back, and then he hurt something in his stomach, which for Carreño Busta is a really bad sign because he gets hurt all the time, the story of his career. Fought it off, though. Ended up losing the second set. Then he came back and he won the third. So nice resolve by Busta. He said in the post-match interview that he's going to try to get ready for the semi. So we'll see if he actually plays or not. But the point is good to see Busta back. And now or trying to make it into a semi. He'll try out for the quarter. We'll see how he does. But hopefully he's able to play. He looked really, really good in the first 2.5 rounds. And then unfortunately he got injured, but he was able to survive. So see how he does in this one. Either way, though, it's kind of going to wrap it up for the actual matches on Wednesday. The sad part are the outrights because we ended up having Chorich and Safulin to win the tournament, and they both had 2 match points on Wednesday, and they lost. So we were victims of 2 blown opportunities, and now we also lost Shang because he got injured and withdrew. So we have 1 guy left, and it is randomly Sonigo. So not the way he drew it up, but damn, that was a rough way to lose 2 outrights, or 3 outrights technically, on Wednesday. A withdrawal after a straight sets win, and 2 separate guys blowing 2 match points. So not fun, but hopefully Sonigo gets it done for us. Yes, it is a long shot, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Either way, though, time to get into the actual preview for the Thursday matches here for the quarterfinals. But for that one, remember once again that we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, because Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gives you a great chance to win 1,000 times your entry, or play fantasy football the right way with Best Ball Mania. Best Ball Mania Live is now available for $15 million in prizes, and you can have specials and boosts on all flex entries. I'll probably end up doing something with what I want to do for this one. There's only 1 WNBA game. I think for this one, I am going to go with... We'll go with Satu Sabali. We'll go with her lower on the rebounds. She's kind of been struggling rebounding for the last year or so, and now she's back against the Liberty, who are a good rebounding team. Give me the lower there on Satu rebounds for the Thursday game. Sign the promo code SGPN. Claim your special, getting a first-time deposit offer of $2,000 bonus cash on Fantasy. Promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circus Survivor and Circuit Millions. Circuit Sports is back with Circus Survivor and Circuit Millions. Give away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your Office Survivor pool, but don't enter Circus Survivor. Don't have to book there for Las Vegas. What are you waiting for? Ultimate Cuts Weekend's a great time to go, and you're running out of time. Actually starts on August 22nd, so it starts today. Don't forget, though, that you can go for Ultimate Cuts Weekend to go hang out with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the performance World of Sports from August 22nd through the 24th. Use promo code SGP15 to save you 15% of your hotel room for sign-up weekend. And a reminder that you have to sign up in person at Circus Sports to play in the contest, and you do that between now and September 7th, and use a proxy play for anywhere. We also have a deal with the proxy. You go to proxythefootballcontest.com, you can save $50 with the promo code SGP, and you also get a free hat. Welcome back, everyone, to the 10 podcast. Just finished recapping what happened on Wednesday. Now it's time to get into the actual preview for the 4 quarterfinal matches in Winston-Salem. So starting off with the first match on the card, you have Kotov against Sonigo. For this one, you kind of forgot Sonigo was here because he didn't play on Wednesday. He got a bye because Shang withdrew. As for Kotov, he lost the first set to Svaja, and he came back and he ended up winning in 3. For this one, Sonigo's minus 145. Kotov is plus 125 for the spread, minus 1.5 for Sonigo. Plus 1.5 for Kotov. The over-under is at 22.5 games. The over is minus 120, and the under is even money. For the over 2.5 sets, you have plus 145. For the set spread here, you have Sonigo minus 1.5 sets at around plus 160. Kotov minus 1.5 sets at plus 260. So to get into the actual matchup here, they have 2 head-to-head meetings. One meeting was this year, faced off in Doha, actually. And Kotov's done well. Kotov's actually won both meetings in straight sets. Now, the first meeting was in Stockholm last year, where I believe Kotov made the final, and then I think he choked him on fee. I think. Point is, though, Kotov ended up beating Sonigo in straight sets, and they faced off again in Doha, and he won in straight sets again. So Kotov's gotten the better of Sonigo twice. Sonigo was fortunate to be here because I think he would have been a dog to Shang. I thought Shang looked really good. He was the co-favorite to win the event, and then he ended up retiring. So Sonigo got a bye in the Wednesday card, and he also was able to beat Stricker in the first match that he had 6-4, 6-1. I back Stricker in the first round, not because I think Stricker's actually good, but because Corey, I think, is terrible on hard court. So it's a win. Don't get me wrong. I think it was a pretty easy one for Sonigo, but I have a hard time evaluating him for this matchup because he beat a pretty underwhelming player, at least based on recent form in Stricker, who's done nothing since the U.S. Open last year. And then you also are looking at a bye in the round of 16. I can't really evaluate Sonigo, and I know that this year has been up and down, mostly underwhelming. So Kotov, I think, has some value here, especially with the 2-0 head-to-head record. Yes, he's dropped the set in both matches, but he has been able to come back, and I do think the argument is that if you really can't trust Sonigo on a regular basis to show up and to look like a, I'd say, high-quality top 40 guy, which he does sometimes, mostly not, though, give me the guy that's 2-0. I think the value's on the dog here. I think 145 is too high. I think it should be like Sonigo minus 120. I would still make him the favorite because he did have an extra rest advantage, because you're looking at Kotov who's had to play a couple 3-setters where Sonigo had a day off. So that is definitely, I'd say, a good spot for him, but I don't trust him. I think Kotov's pretty good. I think he's underrated. So give me Kotov money line here at around plus 125. Don't mind the over 2.5 sets, though, at plus 145. I could see a marathon here, but a guy that's won both meetings on hard court in straight sets, including one meeting this year, and it's plus money, Sounds good to me. Give me Kotov money line here at plus 125. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Gofen taking on Hichikata. Now, Gofen is minus 180. You have Hichikata at plus 160. For the game spread, minus 2.5 for Gofen. You have plus 2.5 for Hichikata. The over-under 21.5 games is the line here. Slight juice the over, though. For the set spread, the minus 1.5 sets here for Gofen is plus 140. The Hichikata to win a set is minus 170, and the over 2.5 sets is plus 135. Now, they have no head-to-head meetings in the past, but I think Gofen's looked obviously better than Hichikata has in the event. Now, Gofen had to go to a marathon 3-setter against Munar in the first round. Once he ended up winning that one, he's been coasting. Ended up winning his next match against Darderi in straight sets, and he ended up beating Rinderknech in straight sets. They're looking at Hichikata, though, and he's fortunate to be here because he ended up beating Kaza in 3. A final set breaker, and ended up beating Chorich when he had to fight off 2 match points. So Hichikata's been feisty. He's been very, very tough mentally, but he probably should have lost already. And I don't mean that as a sign of disrespect. I'm just being obvious. I think there's a talent gap here. I think Gofen's looked a lot sharper on these courts, and I think that with him dominating against Darderi and against Rinderknech, I think he's a better form. I think that even though Hichikata does a good job of keeping the ball in play, I think Gofen is really playing some solid tennis, and his game's translated well to the courts here. It felt like Chorich really punted the match away against Hichikata, and he kind of just waited for Chorich self-destruct. I don't see Gofen doing that. I think Gofen's going to be able to keep his overall composure, and I do think that his overall consistency will eventually give him some good opportunities in these rallies. Hichikata's not a great server. I think Gofen can definitely capitalize on the weak serve and get some good opportunities, but mostly looking at the current form, I think he should win in straight sets. I don't mind the plus 140 here for Gofen. I think maybe Hichikata steals one, but Kaza and Chorich, they're good wins if you want to just talk about advancing, but it really just felt like both guys self-destructed. And I do think Gofen is in line for a good showing because he has been looking sharp so far in the event. Give me Gofen to get the job done here in the quarterfinals. Don't mind the straight sets at around plus 140. Don't mind the minus 2.5 games, though, at minus 125. You want to play it safer. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Eubanks against Mikkelsen. For this one, Mikkelsen minus 215. Eubanks is plus 185 for the over-under. You have 22.5 games. For the spread, you have minus 3 for Mikkelsen, plus 3 for Eubanks. Set spread, minus 1.5 sets for Mikkelsen's plus 115. Eubanks to win a set is minus 145. The over 2.5 sets is plus 140. They won career meeting. It was in Mallorca last year on grass, an event that you ended up seeing Eubanks actually win. He won the entire thing. For this one, though, I think it's a different story because I think that Eubanks is the much better grass player. We saw him make a run to the quarters in Wimbledon. We saw Mikkelsen lose in the first round to Lloyd Harris, for example, this year. I know Eubanks also lost in the first round to Hallison in Wimbledon, but the point is I think we all agree Eubanks is the more comfortable player on grass based on their careers. However, point is on hard court, I do think Mikkelsen's the better player, and I do think that he's looked like the better player in the event. So looking at Mikkelsen so far, he has been coasting. Beat Mikkelsen. Ended up beating Fuchsovics in straight sets. Was competitive, he got the job done 7-6, 6-4, and he absolutely destroyed Bergs in the next match. Plus in Cincinnati, he beat McDonald, beat Griekspoor, then he lost to Sinner competitive though, 6-4, 7-5, and Sinner won the event. So he's been in good form so far. A lot of, I'd say, overall progress for the young teenager. And you're looking at Eubanks, who has been better lately. I still don't really trust his consistency. And I think that's going to be a problem for this matchup, especially because he was able to beat Safulin. Said before, it was a bit lucky. He had no break points in the third set. Safulin had 3. You saw Eubanks have the shanked forehand, which turned into a winner when he was down 4-5 in the breaker to get back on serve. Safulin missed a second serve return long. It just felt like that even though Eubanks got the job done, he really, really escaped. That's the word I'll use. I thought Safulin outplayed him for the back half of the match, and yet he got the loss for it. So Eubanks is kind of fortunate to be here. Beat Gaston, lost the first set to Walton. In the Challenger, he was fine. Lost to Safulin in straight sets. Beat Harris in 3 and beat Schick in straight sets. Then in Challengers before that, he lost to Fernley in 3. Point is, Eubanks has been playing better, but I still think that Mikkelsen's a better player right now. And Mikkelsen, I do think, is a very bad matchup for Eubanks. We know that Eubanks has a good serve. The issue, though, is that Mikkelsen's very tall and lengthy. And the one thing Mikkelsen does very well, he really keeps the ball in play. A lot. The entire match will come down to Eubanks' racket. If Eubanks plays like he did against Gaston, and it's no unforced error, he's going to win. However, I don't see that happening. I think Mikkelsen will go wall mode. I think it'll be able to redirect a lot of serves in play. And I think Eubanks is a really bad rallier. So I do think you're looking at a spot where Mickelson has a really good matchup here, in my opinion. And I think that even though Eubanks got the job done against Safulin, I think Mickelson is in really good form, and I just think it's a bad matchup. Eubanks will have to serve very well as he did in the third set against Safulin to win. I don't really see that happening. I know Mickelson's not a great server, but he's good enough, in my opinion, to at least extract unforced errors from Eubanks' game in the rallies, and I do think that's going to help Mickelson get the job done. So give me Mickelson in this one. Maybe straight sets. I like mine at plus 115. I think it's a really bad matchup. So give me Mickelson here in this one to get the job done at plus 115 in straight sets. Moving on to the interesting matchup here, you have Teen against Busta, two guys you probably didn't expect for this matchup. Now, Busta's minus 180. You have Teen at plus 160. For the spread here, minus 2.5 for Busta, plus 2.5 for Teen. You're looking, or TN. I still got to learn the pronunciation here. The over-under is at 22.5 games. For the set spread here, minus 1.5 sets for Busta's plus 145. Teen to win a set is minus 175. The over 2.5 sets is plus 135. Now going into the, I'd say, second set of the Vukic match on Wednesday, I thought Busta was going to kill this kid because Busta was coasting. He looked incredible, and we saw him take Zverev to the brink. I know he lost in straight sets. It was competitive, though, in Cincinnati. So the point is I do think that Busta's in good form. However, then he got injured. He hurt his abdomen. And he got through it. He beat Vukic. Vukic couldn't hit a first serve to save his life the entire match. I'm not sure Vukic was even above like 45% first serve in the entire match. So Vukic kind of gifted the match over to Busta because he couldn't hit a serve. And it just felt like Busta did enough to keep the ball in play. And I thought Vukic looked objectively bad. So Busta got the job done while being injured. But you have to wonder with the U.S. Open on deck, how hard is he going to push himself? Because he's got to win this match, and he's going to have to win a semi-match and a final, and then get ready for the U.S. Open. Now, the argument is, well, we know Busta can't win the U.S. Open, so why not try to win a title? It is $100K minimum. If you lose in the first round, it's a pretty decent payday. A lot of guys also want just the over recognition of playing in the U.S. Open. I think it makes a lot more sense for Busta to withdraw from this event, and if he's going to withdraw from either this or the U.S. Open, obviously. Busta, though, was in great form for the first 5 sets of this tournament because he didn't drop a set. He beat Kumar 6-2, 6-0, beat Shevchenko 6-2, 6-2, and then he was dominating Vukic, and they ended up falling apart because he got injured. Then he rallied himself, and he got the job done 6-3 in the final set. Teen, though, has been good. I got to mention it because he went through qualifying, he beat Schoolcat, beat Morozin, and beat Seaboth Wild. So not the most difficult path. Morozin can be difficult, but point is, I do think that Busta should be favored. The whole match comes down to his overall fitness. If you think Busta's healthy, he's winning. If you think he's injured, then you're not picking him. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. I can't take an injured Busta at minus 180. I think he might win, but I have a hard time finding value if he might be compromised. Now, he looked a lot better in the third set, but I think the main noticeable, I'd say, feature of Busta's game in that third set was the velocity for the first serve. It plummeted. The first serve velocity was, the first serve in general was great in the first set. Then it fell apart in the second set, and the same thing carried over in the third. So if his stomach is actually bothering him, his first serve will be very vulnerable, and Teen's a good returner. So I think it's not the best matchup, especially if you're looking at an older guy with an injury against a young teenager who's willing to go down in a bunch of long rallies. I think it's a bad matchup for Busta. Now, I do think he's the better player, and I recognize that Teen hasn't really faced toughest competition. His best win is arguably against Morozin in the event. So Busta, I think, should be favored, but I can't take him. I just can't do it. It's kind of like the Sin. I don't want to say it's the exact same thing as the Sinner play against Tiafoe in the Cincinnati final, but it's similar. You have a guy that's a decent favorite, but you know he's compromised physically. If you want to take him and risk it, go ahead. I really can't do it. Now, I know that unlike Sinner, he's minus 180. Sinner was minus 300. But I just can't give out a minus 180 guy who might retire mid-match and who has a history of injuries. It's a serious problem. So I am going to lean to Busta personally. I'd probably play it safe. I would probably lean to Teen to win a set, maybe to win the first set, but maybe a team total over. It might go 3 sets, so maybe that's the angle if you want to go for the over 2.5 sets. I think Busta's going to win, but I really have a hard time finding value on this matchup. So I'm going to pass on it. I hope Busta wins, though. I like him as a player, and I see him back being relevant again because he was a top 10 guy, and he just kept getting injured. So it's nice to see him. Won a 1,000 title in Montreal a couple years ago, so it's definitely good to see him healthy. And he looks really good, but with the injuries and the history that he's had with injuries, I just can't pull the trigger on it. So I'm going to pass. As a result, I'm kind of going to focus more on those other three matches. Either way, though, that's going to wrap it up for the quarterfinal preview. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the actual lock, before we get into that one, remind me once again, they're brought to you by Rhythm, because if you wanted to create your own sportsbook for football, or your own sports betting model for football, you can definitely use Rhythm to help you out, because Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors with the ability to build custom predictive models from scratch in seconds and get projections and predictions on all money line, spread, total, and prop bets. Build your own model. Copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm will give you predictions for every game and player props. And you can also use their stats, research, and trends to analyze your overall matchups for more betting insights. Simplify your betting process with college football kicking off on Saturday. You can use Rhythm for golf as well, and WNBA all summer. And I also don't mind building models in potentially golf, because I definitely am not a big golf guy, but they have a lot of good pre-made golf models that I do recommend. So check that out as well if you do want to get more active in some other sports. A reminder, though, that you can definitely enjoy the Week 0 games in college football, because if you wanted to look at Delaware State football, you now can. So keep that in mind. Claim your center for trial today by going to sportscampus.com Rhythm, sportscampus.com/RITHMN. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace for the MLB, and that makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down close to game time, and you can definitely find some great killer last-minute deals, all in prices, use from receipt, and the rules based guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. My favorite feature is the image of seat views, because it helps show you the view you would be getting from a seat before you spend your money. So you get to avoid any potential obstructions in your view. Very, very useful. Recommend trying it out. Can help save you some money and making sure that you get the best deal possible for your money. Either way, though, a reminder, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again, create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished going through the preview for the quarterfinals. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I am going to go back to the Mickelson and Eubanks match, and I really just think it's a good matchup for Mickelson. Give Mickelson to win the first set and the match at -140. Covering's why we're going to go with this one. First reason, Mickelson's been in good form. He has won 5 of the last 6 matches, with the only loss being to Sinner, which is excusable, so he's been in good form. Eubanks, though, has been fortunate to still be here, because we saw him fight off 2 match points against Safulin, and it felt like he got outplayed, fought off 3 break points as well in that final set. I thought he was going to lose. But the point is, Eubanks got the job done, but I didn't think he looked that dominant by any means. And I think Mickelson is really just a good overall fit for the courts here. While Eubanks has played pretty well, but the unforced errors can still be a problem, which is what Mickelson's going to thrive on. So I do think it's going to be a bad spot for Eubanks. And we know that Mickelson is pretty lengthy. He can get a lot of returns in play. And I once again think Eubanks is going to spray a lot of balls across the court in the doubles alley as well. So with the unforced errors and with Mickelson's great form, beating Fucsovics and beating Bergs in straight sets, it's a good spot in my opinion. So I am going to go with him. Plus, to go into the first set a bit more, Mickelson's been great in the first set. He's won the first set in 6 of the last 7 matches, and the only loss was to Sinner. So I believe that was a 7-5 as well. So he's been phenomenal in the first set. Eubanks, not so much. He's lost the first set in 8 of the last 15 matches. So looking at the last 7, Mickelson is 6-1 in the first set. Eubanks is 7-8. So I do like the idea of Mickelson winning the first set, and I think he's going to be able to get the job done from there. Give me Mickelson to win the first set and the match, cutting into that -215 price, getting it at -140 on in the money line. Moving on to the dog, though, I am going to go back to the first matchup. Give me Kotov money line at +125. Mostly based on head-to-head. Kotov won both head-to-head meetings on hard court, and they were in straight sets. One meeting was in Doha this year, and last meeting was a meeting prior was last year in Sweden. So point is, Kotov's beat him twice on hard court. Sonego had a gift into the quarters. Yes, he beat Stricker. Stricker's been really struggling for the entire 2024, and I think Shang would have been favored against him. But Sonego got the opportunity to just get a free bye into the next round. Still doesn't change the fact that I think Kotov's pretty good, and I do think that Sonego is not worthy of laying 145 against a guy that's 2-0 against him, and we know that Sonego can be a head case, especially with the 2024 season he's had. He's been awful. So give me Kotov to get the job done in this one. I do think that Sonego having a walkover in the second round was fortunate, because I think that Shang would have beaten him personally. But Kotov's been good, and I do think it might be competitive. But +125 seems like there's a bit of meat on the bone there. Even if you think Sonego should be favored, -120, -115 It seems really close on paper. I think 125 is a very good price, so I am going to go with the dog here in this one. So once again, my picks for the lock and dog segment. The lock's going to be on Mickelson to win the first hit against Eubanks and the match at -140. For the dog, give me Kotov money line at +125. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. A reminder back once again for the semis in Winston-Salem. Until next time, find me on the NBA show, find me on the MLB show, and the WNBA show as well. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.